Pale of Settlement was the term given to a region of Imperial Russia in which permanent residency by Jews was allowed and beyond which Jewish permanent residency was generally prohibited. It extended from the Eastern Pale, or demarcation line, to the western Russian border with the Kingdom of Prussia and with Austria-Hungary. The English term Pale is derived from the Latin word palus, a stake, extended to mean the area enclosed by a fence or boundary. Jews were, however, excluded from residency at a number of cities within the Pale, while a limited number of categories of Jews were allowed to live outside it. With its large Catholic and Jewish populations, the Pale was acquired by the Russian Empire in a series of military conquests and diplomatic maneuvers between 1791 and 1835, and lasted until the fall of the Russian Empire in 1917. It comprised about 20% of the territory of European Russia and largely corresponded to historical borders of the former Polish-Euro-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It included much of present-day Lithuania, Belarus, Poland, Moldova, Ukraine, and parts of western Russia. History. The Pale was first created by Catherine the Great in 1791, after several failed attempts by her predecessors, notably the Empress Elizabeth, to remove Jews from Russia entirely, unless they converted to Russian Orthodoxy, the state religion. The reasons for its creation were primarily economic and nationalist. The institution of the Pale became more significant following the Second Partition of Poland in 1793, since until then, Russia's Jewish population had been rather limited. The dramatic westward expansion of the Tsarist Empire through the annexation of Polish-Lithuanian territory substantially increased the Jewish population. At its height, the Pale, including the new Polish and Lithuanian territories, had a Jewish population of over 5 million, and represented the largest component of the world Jewish population at that time. From 1791 to 1835, and until 1917, there were differing reconfigurations of the boundaries of the Pale, such that certain areas were variously open or shut to Jewish residency, such as the Caucasus. At times, Jews were forbidden to live in agricultural communities, or certain cities, as in Kiev, Sevastopol and Yalta, and forced to move to small provincial towns, thus fostering the rise of the shtetls. Jewish merchants of the First Guild, people with higher or special education, university students, artisans, army tailors, ennobled Jews, soldiers, drafted in accordance with the Recruit Charter of 1810, and their families had the right to live outside the Pale of Settlement. In some periods, special dispensations were given for Jews to live in the major imperial cities, but these were tenuous, and several thousand Jews were expelled to the Pale from St. Petersburg and Moscow as late as 1891. During World War I, the Pale lost its rigid hold on the Jewish population when large numbers of Jews fled into the Russian interior to escape the invading German army. On March 20, 1917, the Pale was abolished by the Provisional Government Decree on abolition of confessional and national restrictions. A large portion of the Pale, together with its Jewish population, became part of Poland. Jewish life in the Pale. Jewish life in the shtetls of the Pale of Settlement was hard and poverty-stricken. Following the Jewish religious tradition of tzedakah, a sophisticated system of volunteer Jewish social welfare organizations developed to meet the needs of the population. Various organizations supplied clothes to poor students, provided kosher food to Jewish soldiers conscripted into the Tsar's army, dispensed free medical treatment for the poor, offered dowries and household gifts to destitute brides, and arranged for technical education for orphans. According to historian Martin Gilbert's Atlas of Jewish History, no province in the Pale had less than 14% of Jews on relief. Lithuanian and Ukrainian Jews supported as much as 22% of their poor populations. The concentration of Jews in the Pale made them easy targets for pogroms and anti-Jewish riots by the majority population. These, along with the repressive May laws, often devastated whole communities. Though pogroms were staged throughout the existence of the Pale, particularly devastating attacks occurred 1881 1883 and 1903 1906, targeting hundreds of communities, killing thousands of Jews, and causing considerable property damage. One outgrowth of the concentration of Jews in a circumscribed area was the development of the modern yeshiva system. Until the beginning of the 19th century, each town supported its own advanced students who learned in the local synagogue with the rabbinical head of the community. Each student would eat his meals in a different home each day, a system known as s-and-teg. After 1886, the Jewish quota was applied to education, with the percentage of Jewish students limited to no more than 10% within the Pale, 5% outside the Pale and 3% in the capitals of Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Kiev. The quotas in the capitals, however, were increased slightly in 1908 and 1915. Amidst the difficult conditions which the Jewish population lived and worked, the courts of Hasidic dynasties flourished in the Pale. Thousands of followers of Rebbe such as the Gera Rebbe Yehuda Aryeh Leib Alter, the Chernobyl Rebbe, and the Visnitsa Rebbe flocked to their towns for the Jewish holidays and followed their Rebbe's minhagim in their own homes. The tribulations of Jewish life in the Pale of Settlement were immortalized in the writings of Yiddish authors such as humorist Shalom Aleichem, whose stories of Tiv der Milchhiger and the fictional Shtel of Anateva form the basis of Fiddler on the Roof. Because of the harsh conditions of day-to-day life in the Pale, some 2 million Jews emigrated from there between 1881 and 1914, mainly to the United States. However, this exodus did not affect the stability of the Jewish population of the Pale, which remained at 5 million people due to its high birth rate. Territories of the Pale of Settlement included the following areas. 1791. The Ukaz of Catherine II of December 23, 1791 limited the Pale to Western Krai, Mogilev Gubnia, Polets Gubnia, Malorossia, Kiev Gubnia, Chernigov Gubnia, Novgorod Siversky Gubnia, Novorossiya, Yakota and Islavne Mestnishistvo, Taurida Oblast. 1794, after the Second Partition of Poland, the Ukaz of June 23, 1794, the following areas were added: Minsk Gubnia, Mogilev Gubnia, Polets Gubnia, Kiev Gubnia, Volhynia, Podolia. 1795, after the Third Partition of Poland, the following areas were added: Vilna Gubnia, Grodno Governorate. 1805 Euro 1835. After 1805 the Pale gradually shrinks, and becomes limited to the following areas: Lithuanian Gubnias, Southwestern Krai, Belarus without rural areas, Malorossia without rural areas, Chernigov Gubnia, Novorossiya without Nikolov and Sevastopol, Kiev Gubnia without Kiev, Baltic Gubnias closed. For newcoming Jews, Congress Poland did not belong to the Pale of Settlement. Rural areas for 50 verst from the western border were closed for new settlement of the Jews. Final demographics: according to the 1897 census, the Gubnias had the following percentages of Jews: Northwestern Krai, Vilna Gubnia, 12.86%, Kovno Gubnia, 13.77%, Grodno Gubnia, 17.49%, Minsk Gubnia, 16.06%, Mogilev Gubnia, 12.09%, Vitebsk Gubnia, 11.79%, Southwestern Krai, Kiev Gubnia, 12.19%, Volhynia Gubnia, 13.24%, Podolia Gubnia, 12.28%, Polish Gubnias, Warsaw Gubnia, 18.22%, Lublin Gubnia, 13.46%, Paok Gubnia, 9.29%, Kalais Gubnia, 8.52%, Iotgo Gubnia, 15.85%, Kielce Gubnia, 10.92%, Radom Gubnia, 13.78%, Siedlce Gubnia, 15.69%, Augusta Cube W Gubnia, split into Suwałki Gubnia, 10.16%, Angstromoma 1/4 Gubnia, 15.77%. Others: Chernigov Gubnia, 4.98%, Poltava Gubnia, 3.99%, Tavda Gubnia, Jewish 4.20% plus Karaite 0.43%, Kasan Gubnia, 12.43%, Bessarabia Gubnia, 11.81%, Ekaterinizlav Gubnia, 4.78%. In 1882 it was forbidden for Jews to settle in rural areas. The following cities within the Pale were excluded from it: Kiev, Nikolov, Sevastopol, Yalta. See also, English Pale around Dublin, Ireland, Maylaws, Pogrom, History of the Jews in Russia, History of the Jews in Poland, History of the Jews in the Soviet Union, Anti-Semitism in the Russian Empire, Anti-Semitism in the Soviet Union, Anti-Semitism in the Russian Federation. References. Abramson, Henry, Jewish Representation in the Independent Ukrainian Governments of 1917–1920, Slavic Review, Volume 50, No. 3, pp. 542–550. External links: The Pale of Settlement at Jewish Virtual Library, The Pale of Settlement at the YIVO Encyclopedia of Jews in Eastern Europe, Jewish Communities in the Pale of Settlement, friends-partners.org, Life in the Pale of Settlement, Jewish Encyclopedia, esh.com, Britannica.com, Digital Library McGill Carr, JPG. 1. The Decree on Abolition of Confessional and National Restrictions, passed by the Provisional Government on March 20, 1917.